In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Today we are going to try to cover part of chapter 27. As you know that so far we finished chapter 1 to chapter 26 in the book of Acts. And I just want to go over chapter 26 today, and maybe we'll continue with 27 next week, or I will do a little bit from chapter 27. Chapter 26, that was covered 2 weeks ago, talks about the trial of Saul or St. Paul. How during his final trials, before he goes to Rome to be finally put to be martyred in the name of Jesus. One thing actually, I just want to cover two things in chapter 26. If you notice during the trial of St. Paul, when he met Agrippa, the king, he actually, what touched St. Paul, he's always, in every situation when he meets someone, during his trial, when he go to any place, he always bring one to talk about. Anybody can tell me what the thing that touches St. Paul that you always like to talk about? What do you think, Brian? He always talk about his conversion, how he changed. And this is something very important for us. The way he met the Lord, the way he changed, the way he became a Christian, that's something really stick in his mind, so that in every situation he run to it, he always talk about his conversion, how he changed from Saul to Paul, what exactly changed him, and what exactly happened. So every time he run to a situation, run to a king, he actually, I want to say one thing, he brags about his own conversion. Because this is a moment that he changed from Saul to Paul. For that's why you see that actually in chapter 26, verse 19 to 23, how he talks about his conversion, it changed him and give him power. It give him power. He's willing to witness Christ before the rules. He's willing to stand against anyone during his trial, to witness Christ, to talk about Christ to everyone. Even when he spoke to Felix in chapter 24, he actually spoke to Felix about the coming of Christ, and he also spoke to him about how he changed. And that's my first important point from chapter 26, that always remember what God has done to you. When you run to a situation, count your blessings. When you have a problem, remember what God has done to you. St. Paul spoke very well, and you will find this in verse 19 to 23, how he really, during his way to Damascus, the Lord appeared to him and told him, Saul, Saul, why you are persecuting me? And he felt that this is a message from God. This is a message from God. He did not say, who's talking to me? But right away he responded to him and tell him, what do you want me to do, O Lord? And he felt this is a message from him that helped him to change. Very important when you read chapter 26, and during the trial of St. Paul always talk about his conversion and how he changed from Saul to Paul. I'll read for you actually verse 22 in chapter 26, when he said, how this give him power. He said, therefore, after he spoke about how he changed and he became the great St. Paul, therefore, having obtained help from God. And this is actually something we learn as a servant, most of you here as a servant from St. Paul, that St. Paul, during his conversion and how he changed, he felt that he obtained power from God. He obtained help from God. Said, having obtained help from God, to this day I stand witnessing. How beautiful to witness Christ. He said, to this day, since the time that the Lord appeared to me, and all of us as a Christian, we should actually remember witnessing Christ every day. And remember what God has done to us. How many times you and I fall into sin, and you come confess your sin, and the Lord forgive us. Tell him, this is a moment that I will never forget, how always God is merciful to me. For he said, therefore having obtained help from God. So the power of St. Paul, that give him power and strength during his ministry, he always talk about, I obtained this power from one person only. That's why I can stand against rulers, against king, and I can witness Christ. And you will see that in chapter 27 as an inmate, a prisoner. And he's traveling, going to Rome. He has no power. He's a prisoner. But yet, the power of God helped him to witness Christ even on the ship. And he started warning them. We're going to read chapter 27 and what happened to him, what will happen because God gave him power. God helped him. He said, to this day I stand witnessing, both to small and great. Doesn't matter, small and great, saying no other things than these which the prophets and Moses said would come. That the Christ will suffer. He's always remembered one thing. Always the greatest about St. Paul, not only the way he changed, but to always talk about Christ suffering. You know why? Somebody can tell me why he always talk about Christ suffering. Because during his conversion, when he changed, the Lord appeared to him and told him, by the way, go, you will meet a man, his name is Ananias, and he will tell you how much you will suffer in my name. For suffering in the mind of Paul, it's a gift from God. Suffering, that's why he said, you know what? Suffering is a grant from God. Even himself, he suffered. And he cried to the Lord, he said, can you take this sickness from me? The Lord applied to him and said, my power made perfect in weakness. That he would first, and he talks about the resurrection of the Lord, how he rose from the dead and would proclaim light to the Jewish people and to all the Gentile. So actually, in the mind of St. Paul, after he changed, actually he saw a light and he opened his eyes, that how this St. Paul actually give him power, and this basically, he want to go out, preach the gospel to everyone, because St. Paul is the power. Second point I'm going to cover today, actually also from chapter 26, his meeting with King Agrippa. St. Paul, he challenged the king during the trial. Can you imagine you are an inmate or a prisoner and he challenged the judge? He challenged the judge. Look at verse 27. He said, King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you believe. I know that you do believe. So actually chilling him. By the way, I spoke to you about how it changed. I spoke about the way it became. I spoke about Christ. I was told you how he suffers. But the key right now, do you believe? Do you believe? So very important to challenge, and how this will help us during our life really, to take this to become a challenge in our life. Anything that will go in our way, to challenge him, because the power. He told the king, you know what? God gave me power. God gave me strength. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you believe. How beautiful to always in our life to think about how to really challenge anything that will take us away from God. A challenge those who really help you to doubt Christ. A challenge those who really trying to tell you, no, Christ is not existing. I tell you a good story about Bob Shruda and his brother Shawi. His brother Shawi was actually in Kulliyat Adab, which is studying in a college in Egypt. And one of the professors during his time, this is in the early 50, he was not a Christian, nor he did not believe in God. He was an atheist. So he came to him, look, he had an argument with him, and he actually convinced him about the existence of God. So the professor actually gets so angry from him, tell him, by the way, you are not going to graduate from the school as long as I'm here as a teacher. So he answered him and said one simple. He said, God exists. God exists. Rabbina mawjood. Sure enough, later, in the end, I tell him, you're not going to pass. This year, he was in second year. He did not actually pass. And he went to school third year. But thank God the professor get a grant to go to Kuwait to teach there. So he was there for 3 years. So he finished second, third, and fourth grade. And the teacher came back. He went to get his degree. And he went to his office and knocked on the door. And it's challenging him, like St. Paul. He said, by the way, here is my degree. And I want to tell you one thing, very simple message. God exists. God exists. St. Paul actually challenged King Agrippa and told him, do you believe the prophets? And he said, you know what? I will challenge you. I know that you believe. I know that you believe. Then I will read actually, then Agrippa said to Paul, you almost pursued me to become a Christian. This is verse 28, by the way, if you follow with me. And Paul said, I would to God that not only you, but also all who hear me today. Tell him, look, I'm not just only challenging you, but actually I'm challenging everyone will hear me today. Might become both almost and altogether such as I am. Expect for those chain. St. Paul actually teaches us in chapter 27 during his trial, make sure that to witness Christ, and the most important thing during his trial is actually start speaking about how he changed, how he become from Saul to St. Paul. Chapter 27, by the way, which I'm going to read only a few verses. I will ask you, Brian, to get chapter 27, read for us. Chapter 27, the journey to Rome. So after the King Agrippa finished with him, he actually said, this man is innocent. He said, this man is doing nothing deserved of death or chains. Then Agrippa said to Feltus, this man might have been set free if he had not appealed to Caesar. Because he did ask that he wants to go to Caesar, which is going to go to Rome. And that's what I call it, God's divine also. He was going to Rome to witness Christ there and to die for Christ's sake. But he told him, by the way, King Agrippa, he said, this man, if he did not really ask to go to the Caesar, probably most likely I would send him free. But you know what? He did ask, but let me grant him what he asked for. He find him innocent. He find him innocent. Exactly like Pontius Pilate. When he find Christ is innocent and he washes his hand. And now he said, let's send Paul to Rome. So chapter 27 talks about the journey to Rome. How has the journey become a tough journey? And the message I want to give you actually tonight about chapter 27, inmate takes command. He's an inmate. He's a prisoner. But he took command and took a leadership and showed that even if you are a prisoner and you have no power, through God's grace, you can have power. Brian, can you read for us chapter 1 to 10? I'm going to just cover that chapter 1 to 10. Go ahead, yes. You want to use the microphone this way? Yeah?
When it was decided that we would sail for Italy, Paul and some other prisoners were handed over to a centurion named Julius, who belonged to the imperial regiment. We boarded a ship from Adaritium, about to sail for ports along the coast of the province of Asia, and we put out to sea. Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was with us. The next day we landed at Sidon, and Julius, in kindness to Paul, allowed him to go to his friends so they might provide for his needs. From there we put out to sea again and passed to the lee of Cyprus because the winds were against us. When we had sailed across the open sea off the coasts of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we landed at Myra in Lycia. There the centurion found an Alexandrian ship sailing for Italy and put us on board. We made slow headway for many days and had difficulty arriving off Cnidus. When the wind did not allow us to hold our course, we sailed to the lee of Crete, opposite Salmone. We moved along the coast with difficulty and came to a place called Fair Havens, near the town of Lasea. Much time had been lost, and sailing had already become dangerous because by now it was after the fast. So Paul warned them, "Men, I can see that our voyage is going to be disastrous and bring great loss to the ship and cargo and to our own lives also."
Very good. I just want to cover 2 points for this, what we just read right now. Now, St. Paul is going to Rome, and they take in a ship, And actually, you're going to find chapter 27 covering this completely about really what will happen and the trial that they face from the storm during their way to St. Paul. And you see that in chapter 27, how Julius, which is the head, the centurion man, taken Paul. But the one thing he find in Paul, which has give inmate to become a leader, he built the trust. It seemed like St. Paul built the trust. Because imagine kida, you are a prisoner and your officer will come and tell you, look, by the way, we are going to Rome right now, but before we get to the ship, go say goodbye to all your friends and coming back to me. That does not make sense. That's what he told him actually. When you read verse 3, he said, and the next day we landed at Sidon. So they actually start going with the ship. They landed in Sidon. And Julius treated Paul kindly. He treated him kindly and gave him liberty. He's a prisoner. He will run away. He will run away. And he gave him liberty to go to his friends and receive care. That's beautiful. So St. Paul, being a prisoner, Julius, he find actually grace in his eyes. And tell him, look, I trust you. Because you know what it is? Something different in you. And that's the one number message. How you and I can make a difference in others. That people trust me even if I'm in jail. Yeah, and are you going to send him to go see his friends? What happens if he doesn't come back? You will be in trouble. As an officer, you will be in trouble. He said, no, but I trust Paul. So number one, Paul did, you will see during his journey to Rome, he built the trust. And that's something very important for me, you and I, how we can build trust with others. And this trust has to come from above. This trust will come with my relationship with God. This trust will come from nothing but from God Himself. So number one, from what we just read right now, how St. Paul built the trust. And he told him, I love this verse again. Let's read again. And the next day, we landed at Sidon. And Julius treated Paul kindly, gave him liberty to go to his friends and receive care. That's amazing. How an inmate has no authority, has no power, has no freedom to go to his officer and officer tell him, look, by the way, Paul, I trust you. Just to go, I go say hi to your friends, say goodbye to your friends, and I know that you're going to come back. So this trust did not come from nothing, but this trust comes from his relationship with God. So people will trust you, even honestly if they do not know you. I know somebody used to work with a company, and the guy was it's a construction company. And he, like a big contractor, he worked for him. And after 2 months, after work, he find something good in him. So he gave him actually the key of the all storage area. And he would send him anytime to pick up the stuff. And he trusted that person because he see God is with him. And let me ask you, are you trustworthy like Paul? Imagine during a trial, you are in jail, and your officer tells you, look, go say hi to your friends, and I know that you're going to come back again. That's a major trust. So number one, St. Paul built the trust. He become trustworthy. And we need to become trustworthy, but this will not come from nothing, but it will come from my relationship with God. Number two, actually, with the last point I'm going to cover with you today, how when the ship starts to sail to go to Rome, it starts having problems. Problems. St. Paul, being an inmate, being a prisoner, he has no right, he has no freedom. But number two, I want to call it, he took initiative to speak to them. He's a man of God. He knows what's right. He knows what will happen. God maybe will reveal to him what will happen on the ship. So he started to actually give them some warning for what will happen. Let's read verse 9 and 10 together. Now when much time had been spent, and sailing is now dangerous, because the fast was already over, Paul advised them. Who are you, Paul? You are not the captain of the ship. You are not the leader of this. You are not the centurion. Who are you? What kind of experience you have to talk to them? How can you give advice to them? You are just an inmate. But God's grace in Paul helped him to stand and took initiative and tell him, you know what? Paul advised him, saying, man, I perceive that this journey will end with disaster and much losses, not only for the cargo or ship, but also for our soul. I love Paul so much. When he discovered that something will happen, he took initiative. He has no position or permission, but Paul stepped and took an action and made an action. Tell him, by the way, I warn all of you that, you know what will happen? It will be basically, it's not good in نحن travel right now. Today, I just want to cover what I covered so far today. We talked a little bit, we talked about chapter 26 and how chapter 26, it's the journey of the trial of Paul. And this is Paul meeting Agrippa, the king, and how he told him, he challenged him and told him, by the way, you know what? He challenged him and tell him, and he started talking to him about how he changed and he became St. Paul. And also we talked about how St. Paul actually, Agrippa the king, find nothing in him wrong, and he would send him free. But he said, you know what? Because you wanted to go to see Caesar, for therefore you go to Caesar. For now, in his way, journey to Rome begins, and we see his, as I told you, inmate takes commandment, inmate takes leadership, his influence, how, and this influence starts, number one, how he built the trust, and number two, how he took initiative. May God bless you, and glory be to God forever and ever. Amen.